All right, that being said, let's dive right in. So, information security. When you hear about this term, information security or cyber security, what comes in your mind? Or can you tell me the difference between InfoSec and cybersecurity? Anybody? Your definition. It doesn't have to be the best definition. Just give me something.
Information, I always think of it plain and simple. You're protecting the information or the data. Cyber, I always think of your securing, configuring, preventing, detecting.
Okay. Kind of the same, but okay. I see what you're saying. Anybody else? Not a problem. I'll give you my definition, and it could definitely be wrong because this is one of those things that a lot of cybersecurity professionals, they're still debating on it. Right? They're still like, okay, should we just call it cybersecurity or like what is it? So my thing of this is information security is when we're providing protection for everything. When I say everything, I'm talking about digital and physical. So let's say that you have a door, right? And then that door has some kind of security badge of some sort. Well, that will be information security. It's physical, but it will be part of the information security. Then cybersecurity is digital. This is the ones and zeros. This is when you're providing security within the digital space. So for example, let's say that you configure what we normally call an access control list. You don't see that. That's not something you can see and touch and smell. It's all happening within the computer. So that's what I would say it's what we normally call cyber security. It's when we're providing security through kind of a digital stuff, to those ones and zeros. Then information security is when we're providing security not only to digital data, but also we take that kind of a step further and providing security to physical stuff as well. Okay. So again, different professionals will give you different kind of explanation of this, but this is besides the point. Now, back to the topic here. There's this thing that we normally call the CIA. And if there's one thing that you have to remember about the class is going to be this, that this CIA, and it has nothing to do with the Central Intelligence Agency. This is the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay, and there's one more here known as non-repudiation, and we'll talk about that. I just finished talking about digital signatures a minute ago. So let's break this one down. Confidentiality, what is it? Confidentiality, it's all about making sure that only the people who are authorized to access something, they are the ones that are accessing that thing, right? Like, what do you exactly mean? What I exactly mean is, imagine if you encrypt some kind of a data. Whenever you encrypt that data, you will be given some keys. So basically what you're saying that is that, hey, look, unless you have this key, you can't see this data. So in other words, encryption provides confidentiality. So I can encrypt in an email, send that email to Austin, and nobody else is going to access that email other than Austin because he's the one that has the key to open that email. So confidentiality, only the people that are authorized to access the information are the ones that are accessing it. Integrity, making sure something has not been changed, has not been altered. Okay, which was part of the question that we just finished, that we just saw a minute ago. One way of doing that is through hashes. Hashes are algorithms. There are what we normally call one-way string, we will talk about hashes in more depth. But hashing, it's an algorithm that whenever you apply that to a file, to a software, it will give you one number, and that number can never be changed. If you try to change it, if you try to change the original data, it's just gonna kill everything. Let me show you guys a quick example here. MD5 online. Can y'all see this okay, or should I make it a little bit bigger? Better?
It looks good.
Okay. So let's say that I want to send hello world to any of you. And I generate a hash for it. Specifically, right now, I'm generating what we normally call MD5. We'll talk about these hashing algorithms in more depth. But if I were to send you this right now, this will tell you that, hey, Francois just sent you hello world, right? This number right here, it's gonna always be the same. It can never change. It's what we normally call a one-way string, right? So hello world in the hashing algorithms is this number that you see here. Now, if anybody during the transit, if anybody were to capture my message and then say, hello world, please, and they add anything to this, it could be a comma, it could be a space, it doesn't matter. If they make any change to that software, to that email, to that thing that they are sending to you, the whole thing should be different. The whole hash should be different, right? As you can see, hello world, please, is literally generating a completely different hash. Now, what this tells you is that if the hash is different, you should not trust that message. You should not trust whatever that is. Another great example that I'll give you is this. Let's say you go into Kali, you download Kali Linux. Kali Linux is one of those hacking machines that a lot of hackers use, and some good guys. You and me, we use these ones. We use Kali. You're gonna see me using Kali a lot in this class. It's a Linux distribution that pretty much everybody that I know uses. So you go to Kali Linux, Kali.org. One of the things that they did, and I'm showing you this as an example. One of the things that they did here is generating the checksum that we're talking about, generating the hash. In another word, as soon as you finish downloading Kali, if I were to download Kali right now, I can run this right here, the SHA-256 sum. And if it generates this right here, then what that tells me is that the file, the program, the Kali I just downloaded has not been changed, has not been altered by anyone. It's literally telling me this is original, you should trust it. And that's the integrity. So when we're talking about, let me just go back here. When we're talking about integrity, we're talking about making sure something is original. It has not been changed either during a transit or if it's stored in some kind of hard drive somewhere. And then hashes, and hashing algorithms are a way of ensures integrity. Another thing we have here, it's availability. Remember, guys, this is the backbone. This is the backbone of security. Everything we do in security is to ensure these three things, the CIA. If any of this is taken away, there is no security, right? There's no security at all. Another thing we have here is availability. Availability is making sure something is there, right? Something is there whenever we need it, right? The whole thing is in the name, available, right? It's there when we need it. Tony want to access Amazon.com. Well, easy, is Amazon available? If it's available, we have the availability. Okay. Now, one thing that I want to stress out here, guys, is this. When we're talking about availability, we're not talking about the speed. We're not talking about the speed of how fast something shows up, because it can take about 10 minutes to load up Amazon, but Amazon is still there, right? So whenever something is there, that means it's available. So one thing that we use in cyber to ensure availability, and we're going to talk about this in more depth. Again, guys, this is more of like an introduction. All this encryption, hashing, load balancing, I'm going to come back to all this in more depth during the week. One thing that we use to ensure availability is load balancer. Who is here have heard about load balancer? Anyone? Yeah, like, no, we have never heard about that. Let me ask you guys this. Do you guys know how popular Google is, right? And how everybody use Google?
Yeah.
Do you think Google use one server to be able to serve all those requests?
No,
No,
multiple servers.
there's too much information.
Right. So probably a couple millions, right? A couple millions of different servers. So for them to be able to stay online, to be available, they have to use a load balancer, which is a device that is designed to distribute the load among those millions of servers. And one great company that does this better than anyone is F5. F5 have some of the best load balancer there is. They even have some kind of a certifications, like literally, and that's the other beauty of cybersecurity. It's like you can literally kind of make a niche for yourself. Like we can literally just become a load balancer Google. And every company that want people to set up a load balancer, maintaining it, you can be that person. Anyway, the point I want trying to make here, guys, is this. We can have an F5 load balancer, which are very common. It will be right here. And this thing, it's going to distribute the load among different servers. And what that means is that as request comes in, Francois from Georgia, he's accessing google.com. Well, the load balancer is intelligent enough to be able to distribute the load among these servers. Hence, load balancer is keeping us available. Because if all these requests were going to one machine, it will shut down, which is what you guys basically were saying. All right, last thing that I'm going to talk about here is non-repudiation. Then I'm going to pick up the pace. But I wanted to make sure you guys understand this. This is the backbone of cybersecurity. And everything we're going to talk about moving forward is going to come back and touch on these. Another thing we have here is non-repudiation. Anybody here have heard about non-repudiation?
Yes.
All right, Tony, what do you think non-repudiation is?
It's being able to say that the originator who sent the message is the originator, and they can't fake it or go back or say that they didn't create it.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, you can't just be like, I didn't do that. Like you can't deny an action that you've taken. Right? One way we do this in the physical world is with the bank when we sign the check. That's why here they have digital signatures as a way of ensuring a non-repudiation. Because when you sign a check, you can't go back to the bank and be like, Wells Fargo, that was not my signature, really. Right? They'd be like, yeah, you cannot repudiate that. You can't deny that action. So non-repudiation is when a subject cannot deny taking some kind of action. And for us to ensure that you can't deny something that you've done, we have to make sure that you digitally sign that thing. When you digitally sign that thing, it's going to have your fingerprint on it. If that wasn't an email, it's going to have all your names, your keys, your public, and everything is going to be there. And you can't just say, I didn't do that, because everything points to you. and you can't deny that action. So that's really what non-repudiation is all about. And guys, remember this for your exam. Remember these 4 things for your exam. They will pop up. Any questions before I move forward? All right, I'll take that as a no. Let me get going. All right, few other things. There is a company, it's a government-based known as NIST, N-I-S-T. For those who work for the government, have you guys heard about NIST? No?
National Institute of Standard Technology or something.
Yeah, Tony, you're right. It's not really huge, but they literally take care of the a lot of the cybersecurity. A lot of the things that we do in cybersecurity literally like comes from NIST. Like they do the standards like for the whole cybersecurity industry, if you will. So they have some special publications, SPs. They even have a framework. That's what we're going to talk about here. They have a framework, this guy, where if you are setting it up, let's say that you're a company and you are looking at setting up a cybersecurity department, then you don't have anybody to do it for you. Guys, I'm putting these resources in the chat here in the resource section. So everything that I'm sharing with you, I'm going to put it here, just in case you want to go back to them. I'm just going to put the links here. All right, so let's say, so cybersecurity framework from NIST, it goes in and talks about the things, if you do them the right way, they are gonna protect your company. And this is the framework. So you're a company, you don't know where to begin, and you can just grab this framework and just follow it. So let's talk about what this framework kind of consists of. The cybersecurity framework goes in and talk about the type of work that we do in cyber, guys, the type of work that we do. First thing that we do, before I even get there, ideally, guys, ideally we want to defend. We want to stop everything. That's what we do as cybersecurity professionals, especially the blue teamers, the defense. We want to be able to defend and stop these attacks. That's the overall goal. But more likely that's not going to happen all the time. So what we're going to do, we have to identify. Literally, that's the first step every cybersecurity professional have to do, is to identify. And you're like, okay, what do you exactly mean about identify? Guys, what I meant here is this. You cannot protect what you don't know. So you have to do your inventory. You have to know exactly what's in your networks. What are the critical servers? What are the networks? What are the routers, the switches? Like, you have to know your environment. So identify the software, the hardware, and everything that you have within your environment. And that's going to help you kind of prioritize. That's going to give you an idea of how you're going to protect those things. There are 2 things I want to share with you since we're talking about this, because this is at the core foundation of what we do in the real world, guys. CIS top 20. I will come back to CIS, but I just want to go ahead and share this with you guys. All right. So there's this Center for Internet Security, and these guys have been around for over 20-some years, and they're nonprofit. But one of the things that they do once a while, they come up with the critical security controls that if any company put them in place, and this goes with the NIST documentation that we're talking about, but if any company put these in place, they are going to be secure. And guess what the first and the second thing they do? Boom. Inventory. Inventory, inventory, inventory. You are not going to secure something you don't know. And one of the reasons why hackers, they always win is because they try to learn our environment. They tend to understand our environment better than us. That's why they learn. Because once they get into your environment, all they're going to start doing is what we normally call reconnaissance or recon. In other words, they're going to start looking around, finding, weaknesses and vulnerabilities, and finding, kind of different things that are part of your network. And that's exactly what we need to do as well. So inventory, know your hardware, know your software, and then know how everything communicates together. So know how everything they're configured. If you can even do those three things, you're halfway there. So I'm going to share this with you guys, because as you go to the job interview, there's not a cybersecurity professional, at least decent ones, a cybersecurity professional who doesn't know these top 20. They used to call them top 20, but now it's top 18. So there's no cybersecurity professional who doesn't know these. And if you can show up to them and their job interview and just kind of start mentioning this, or how you've kind of, like if you were to secure an environment, the best way to go by doing that will be to start by knowing your critical assets, like knowing which servers that holds social security number, right? Because you got to know that. That way you can know how to protect that first before anything else. Those hiring managers are going to be more than welcome to listen to you. John, did you have a question? I saw you try to unmute yourself.
No, Francois. I was just muting myself. I don't know if you guys can hear that fan. So.
Okay. All right. No, not a problem. So I'll put the link in the chat. Another thing that I want you to watch, and this is going to be part of your homework, is this guy.
Really do make our job hard. So if you don't.
This guy's name is kind of as in Bob Joyce, and he is the leader of the NSA cybersecurity kind of a division. And these are, we're talking about the best of the best. Like there's nobody who's better than these guys in the whole world. One of the things that he talks about here that I think is very critical for you to understand is whenever they're going to attack different environments, like what do they do first, right? And guess what he said here? He says that they're going to try to understand your environment better than you. So make some time to watch this and maybe take some notes and come back to me and ask me any questions that I might have about this. But I think a lot of the things that he talks about here apply to your Security Plus, and knowing that it's not only going to help you for your Security Plus, but it's going to also help you as you go to those job interviews. I'll put those resources in that chat in the Discord as well. All right, so the first thing we need to do, again, identify your critical devices. The next thing you do is protect them. Now that you know what is worth to, what you should focus on as far as protecting, now it's time to, protect them. Now, like I said, ideally, we want to defend everything, but that's not going to happen. So if that's not going to happen, what we want to do is to be able to detect anything that manages to go through. Okay, so there's this saying, guys, and a lot of SANS instructor talk about this, and that saying it goes like, defense is ideal. So ideally, we want to really defend everything, but that's never going to happen. Therefore, detection is a must. So if you can't stop it, at least you need to know it's happening. At least you need to detect it. And one of the reasons why hackers are killing us is because sometimes they will stay in your environment for 23 months. Literally, guys, I am not making this number up. There are researchers that shows this, that hackers are gonna get into your environment and then they stay there for 23 months, and then you are not gonna know they were there. That's like insane. And the only time you know that they're there, it's because they let you know basically, like, hey, look, we've been here for too long, and we're stealing all of your data, and it's time for us to go. And once they do that, they start to get, oh, we have been attacked. So normally, and this is based on different data, they're gonna stay there for like 23 months. You're not gonna know they're there. So what we're gonna do as professionals, cyber professionals, is that, okay, we want to protect this, we want to be able to defend this, but that's never gonna happen. Therefore, we need to detect these guys as fast as we can. Once we detect them, we need to respond. Once we have responded, we need to recover any damages that they may have caused. Now, this is what the NIST cybersecurity framework does. Right? This is literally what the NIST cybersecurity framework talks about. Identify what's critical, try to protect it, and if you're not going to protect everything 100%, detect anything that manages to go through, respond, and recover. And Tony, absolutely persistent. Right? These guys are very persistent. We're going to talk about that. All right. Any questions?
And so obviously I know that's just one of the quick tips.
Mhm.
Identify, it said like, where are they? Know which controls, know your environment. Protect, you just know more, like what would be like one of the main bullet points to protect, just preventative?
Yeah. So here, right, once we identify what needs to be protected, like a database of a social security number, then protect is what we're going to put in place to protect that. It could be a firewall. It could be anything that we do in cybersecurity.
And then detect, you're going to look more, you're going to inspect more and look at logs and stuff.
Yeah. So later on here, we're going to talk about things such as a SIEM, CIM, IDS, IPS. All these things are devices that are designed for detection purposes. Detect what's happening within your network.
And respond to cover this one. Okay. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, guys, let's get going. Information security. Let me pick up the pace. Information security competencies. Again, guys, when you work in cyber, people or companies expect you to know a little bit more, right? But these are some of the core competencies that you should possess. And in cybersecurity, the more you know, the better. That's why we recommend you start with, let's say, you start with maybe knowing your networks and knowing your software and knowing your scripting. Tony talked about, Python scripting and stuff like that. All these skills will help you as a cybersecurity professionals, these different competencies. Because if you're doing the same thing over and over again, well, it really helps if you can just automate that thing, right? Just write a very basic script to help you automate that. And networking, absolutely, because that's why you're securing. You're securing two computers communicating. So it makes more sense for you to know the protocols, the language that they use when they're communicating, the port numbers. Because if you're going to be blocking, let's say that you're blocking HTTP. If you've never heard about HTTP, that's okay. We'll talk about this. But you got to know that's port 80, right? And this is often networking knowledge. Because if you're going to be block HTTP, all right, so you're not going to block as HTTP, you're going to block it as a port number, which is port 80. Anyway, guys, these are the competencies that you should know. Again, first, you've got to know how to do some risk assessment and test them, right? Know how risky your company is, and then test those things. After knowing that, you have to know how to install, configure things to kind of protect your environment. Again, these are going back to what we just finished talking about. Know your hardware, know your software, and then know what exactly you need to do to protect them. Okay, you might do things such as access control list, user privileges, one thing that I would tell you guys is this: in cybersecurity, normally hackers, they can't just come into your environment without you inviting them. You're like, what do you exactly mean? What I mean is this: the users have to click on that phishing email. We'll talk about phishing and social engineering in more depth, but someone from the inside have to do something that basically invites, the hacker into your organization. And for that reason, you and I, we have to make sure we take those privileges away from those users. Okay, we need to make sure we have access control, only giving people the right they need to do their job, and that's it. No more, no less. Because some people have just too much rights. Let me share this with you guys. There was this attack that took place in 2021 with Marriott Hotel. 2020, not 21. And I'll share this with you guys just in case you want to read up on this. It's kind of like fascinating. So here, what they're telling us is that there were 2 accounts, just 2 users, 2 Marriott Hotel users who had access to 5.2 million guest accounts. It's like mind blowing. Like, how can just 2 users have so many access to as many as these many accounts? Again, this is where the least privileges comes in, because what you want to do is give these people the only rights they need to do their job, and that's it. Because even if they get compromised, we don't like this is ridiculous, right? Not 5.2 million accounts will get compromised as a result of their accounts. So access control is huge. We have a whole chapter that talks about this. And another competency, which is good, it's auditing. Tony was talking about this, right? Detection. We're going to look at the logs, look at the events that are taking place within your environment. Instant reporting and response, right? This is where you're going to spend the majority of your time in, especially when you're just getting started. You're going to have to be responding to these incidents. Business continuity and disaster recovery. Of course, bad things will happen, but business goes on. So you need to know how to get your business up and running as fast as possible, right? And obviously, unfortunately, a lot of the cybersecurity people, they end up becoming instructors. Literally, once you work for a company, you're going to start holding security training, security awareness training. You're going to have to do all kinds of that stuff, trying to educate the users so they can help you protect that environment. I always tell students, guys, look, security is not a job of you and me because we work in security. Everybody, from the CEO to the janitor to the guy that cleaned the floor, they have to participate. Because no matter what we do, guys, because as we advance here, you're going to learn a lot. But we can implement firewalls, IDS, IPS, proxies. We can put all these things in place. But unless these people don't open the doors, unless they stop clicking on these phishing emails, all these things are useless. Everything we do in security, they're useless unless the regular users are buying into security. So again, these are the competencies that we need to be aware of. Information security roles and responsibilities. Here, for those who are gonna kind of advance in this is where you want to be. These are the overall responsibilities. Become a CSO or a CISO. A lot of people are becoming CISO nowadays. What this means is that you pretty much oversee the cybersecurity department. This is where you're making over like 200 grand a year, literally. You're making over $200,000 a year. It's a lot of money to be made right here. So, but what I recommend, guys, before you get to this level, you got to know the technical stuff. So a lot of what you're going to do here is managing people that are doing the technical stuff. And if you don't know the technical things, you might not, get the respect that you should be getting from the people you manage. But again, some of the responsibility is that cyber, we work with different departments. So you'll see people in managerial, you see some, again, technical folks, you see non-technical, then you see a lot of liability and due care. Again, these are part of our responsibilities. And then this goes back to the thing I was talking about. Cybersecurity is not a job of just the CISO, just the technical folks that works in cyber. It's a job of everybody, including the manager and the non-technical. There is a due care, kind of a moral responsibility for everyone to kind of keep the company secure. All right, another thing here, SOC. Security, SOC stands for Security Operations Center. You're probably gonna see maybe 2 or 3 different things that are labeled as SOC. And I'll make sure I point those out because I don't want you to get confused once you're taking that exam, because these will pop up. So SOC, it could be a role. You could be like a SOC analyst. SOC analyst, basically you are help desk for the security. Your job is to look at the events, the incidents, look at the security logs, and then be able to determine if this bad, or if this is bad, should I escalate, should I investigate, and so on and so forth. That's what they do. But also it could be a department. So SOC analyst could be a department where you have different people that come from different places work as a part of the SOC. People that does, forensic, people that does instant response, right? People that does threat hunting, penetration testing people, like lawyers, right? Business folks. Everybody could be part of the SOC if the SOC is kind of like a department. And the reason is because Security Operations Center is the first line of defense, because these are the first people that's going to see exactly what is taking place at the company. And we need people who can make decisions. We need people who can investigate things, who can respond to things. So Security Operations Center as a department is going to consist of different bodies, if you will, different individuals from different departments. DevSecOps or DevSec. Anybody have heard about this?
I heard,
No, I have not.
I know like DevOps, that's the development operation, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's the security of the development operations.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. Right on the money. You just hit on the nail. Carl and everybody else, this is on an emerging career. You can literally decide just to focus on this as your career in cybersecurity. And all you're going to do, you're just going to be that person that's in the middle. Someone who understands the developer, who understands people that do coding, which basically means you're going to learn a little bit of coding yourself. Someone who understands the operations, the day-to-day stuff, and obviously someone who understands security. So these people are like between different departments, and they just kind of coordinate everything, make sure things are moving. Because there's like a misalignment between the developer and the security. One thing I'll tell you guys is this, and then we're going to talk about this as well, is that a lot of people who write code, they don't know security. So this developer, the people who sit down and code the application, they have no idea about security. And everything is code, right? So they're just going to write a weak software and thinking that you can just apply security on top of it. And it doesn't work like that. And we've seen this happen over and over again. Have you guys heard about the Zoom bombing that took place in 2020? Like when whole the pandemic was taking place. People were talking about Zoom bombing. Anybody can get into your Zoom meetings without even knowing anything. Yeah, that was a big deal. But come to find out, it was because Zoom used like a proprietary algorithms, like cryptographic algorithms, which is, you're like, okay, why would you do that? Right? You are using something that has not been tested, something that nobody else is using. Of course, somebody's going to find issues in that. So, but again, this is the issue of the developer. Developer, they don't know security. So DevSecOps, these are the people that are in between and making sure that the developer are developing a secure applications, right? That way, security is kind of a built-in from the beginning. Last thing here, it's instant respond. Now, it's another kind of a career track, guys, that you can focus on. But these, most of the time, there are a team, right? You can become an instant responder, but you might be a part of the CERT, CCERT, CERT. Literally, there's just different ways of saying the same thing, different groups that does the same thing. These are the people that are responsible for responding to any incident that is taking place. You might have a first responder. So first responder might be part of this team right here, which is that personnel who's going to be notified about the incident. Like, this just happened. Okay, first responder, you're up. They're going to know who they need to call. If the incident happened in the sales department, they're going to know this, like all that good stuff. So again, this might be part of a SOC. It might be like just a team that is a part of the Security Operations Center. Questions, anyone? All right, so let me see what time we got. All right, we're still doing good. So there is this lab, assisted labs, exploring the lab environment. So if you go back to your CompTIA, I'm just going to show you guys this. Again, a lot of these, you're going to do this from home. We don't have enough time to do this in the classroom. So assisted lab, exploring lab environment. This is going to just spin this bad boy up. And once you launch this, it's going to take a minute. Once this is launched, it's just going to kind of get you up to the speed on how to use this lab environment. Okay, so yeah, this is going to take a while, but really just go back into your CompTIA, on labs, click on labs, then let's get busy with the first one. Click on this and just get started. Okay, and there will be some steps. Once this launched, I will, show you what exactly going to be doing. But is there any questions from you guys?
So you want us to do the same thing, the same process here? Did I understand it correctly? You want us to do our lab? No, I'm going to watch you do it.
Yeah, not right now. So I'm only,
okay.
I'm only introducing you to this.
Okay.
And you're going to do this on your own time. All right. So as this is loading up, guys, let's go ahead and take about another 5-10 minutes. And I'll see you guys in about 5-10 minutes. Then we're going to keep going. Yeah, for those who are not on the video, you can just say something.
If I'm good, it's Carl.
All right, Carl.
Yeah, good to go. The grand.
All right. I'm going to share my screen. And here we are. Oh, 2 minutes remaining. Give me a few more. So this is the environment. This is the environment. Oh, can y'all see my screen okay?
You magnify it just a little bit. I don't know if it's just.
Yeah, sorry. I have like a bigger monitor. There you go. Better this way.
Yeah. Let's see if I.
Yeah. So the only thing, this is how you're going to be using this environment here, guys. It's you're gonna have the instructions on the right hand side, but also some of the other things like Control Alt Delete. If you press this in on your keyboard, it's just gonna do this on your physical machine. So you want to click on this little icon here. That right there. That right there. And then make sure, actually, that's not it. This is just going to help you change within the different computers. You want to click on that icon right there, the little flashy looking thing right there. And then click on Control Delete. And that's going to do exactly just that. And another thing you want to do is go to Resource, left-hand side. Right here, this is where you're going to see the usernames and passwords of any machine. So for example, this particular one has all these computers, all these machines, DC1, RT1, MS1. Right, you can click on either one of these and you'll be able to see their usernames and passwords. Right. So if I go back to this one, MSA1, and one thing you can do, you can either just click on it if this is a Windows machine and the password is going to be typed there for you. And now you have to just click on login, right? Just that, and you're good to go. Or if this was, let's say, a Kali machine, like this guy right here, you will have to type this up. This thing have to load up as well. So you have to type that up. And as soon as you finish, you're good to go. So this is it. You can also click on the little flashy thing to see some of the other things that they have here. But the only thing that we use this for is Control Alt Delete. Scenario. So when you're doing this, I recommend you read over the scenario. That way you have an idea of what exactly you're doing. One thing that I really, and this is between me and you guys, one thing that I really don't like about systems like these ones is that you're going to start working like a robot. It's like, okay, step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this. And that's really not that good because you are more focused on just getting it done. And that's not what I want you to do. I would rather have you not finish these, but kind of when you're doing them, take your time to try to understand what this command is trying to do, right? So what am I learning out of typing this command? What exactly I'm trying to learn? And that's going to require you do a little bit extra stuff, right? Like, for example, they're asking you, type in, like IF config or something like that. Well, what is that? Like, what is IF config? Let me bring up CMD. Right? Not that. Wait a minute. So here we are. If I were to find out this IP address, IP config, and right now they're telling me CCIP version 4. Fantastic. If you've never used IP config before, I don't want you to just type in IP config, even though the instructions just say that. I really don't want you to just type in IP config then move on. I want you to take a minute, try to understand what exactly IP config is doing. It's going to help you on your job. It's going to help you during your interview. We're not racing, guys. Finishing these, it's okay. Not finishing them, it's not like it's not a college. I'm not going to take points away from you. Right? Just try to understand these commands, okay? So another thing, you might do a little extra research because some of the explanations doesn't do a really good job. All right, so, and whenever you finish doing that, just click on the green thing there. I mean, the little thing there's going to turn green, and you will see the the percentage goes up. All right, that's how you're going to measure your progress. Keep going. Whenever you finish whatever that is, you turn these up, and I'm able to monitor these guys. I'm able to see what you're doing. So if you get stuck or if there's anything that you don't understand, we can quickly jump on this and I can get you up to the speed. But one thing that I really want you guys to start familiarizing yourself with is knowing how to do some Googling. So before you ask me, do your part. Try to figure it out first. That's the best way to go by learning this. And between me and you guys, that's basically what we do in cyber. A lot of this stuff, we have no idea what we're doing. And guess what we do? We just Google it. So this morning, you're going to wake up, you're going to find this vulnerability that you have never heard before. It's brand new. You don't know anything about it. Guess what you're going to do? Google it. It's a really valuable skill to have. Any questions with this?
None from me.
All right. I'm also not really so crazy about this because, again, remember, the goal is for you to pass the certification. That's what I am going to kind of focus on more. But that being said, having a certification, it's 50% of the fight. You're going to get your hands dirty and get some hands on. And this is a great start. And yes, end my lab and close the window. And let's get back to this. And this time, let's just get going. All right, the second topic. This is the boring stuff, but that is necessary for your exam. A lot of this, you're just gonna memorize it, then probably forget about them as soon as you finish taking that security class. So, and I'll tell you which ones that you need to memorize. All right, once you go back and follow the exam objective, I am following these. So CompTIA literally go back and just, print these out, and I'm just gonna print them as well. So whenever you're going back to put those check marks on the exam objective, look over this as well. All right. So we just finished talking about security, and we talked about, you got to understand your environment, you got to know this. And after you know the environment, then you can put controls in place, right? You can put things that help you stop whatever that's taking place at your environment. One of the questions you might ask is, okay, what exactly are we gonna put in place? That's what this slide is gonna answer for you. So we have what we normally call the security controls, and a control is a fix. It's something that we do to prevent something from happening. And we have a category of these. One of it is technical control, right? Another one is operational, another one is management. When we're putting controls in place, this is what we're doing. This is the implementation. This is how we implement these controls. Technical, it's anything that is implemented by a software or a hardware, right? It's a technology based. If you put a firewall in place to help you stop unwanted traffic, that's a technical control. It's implemented by technology. Another one is operational. Operational, this is it's the day-to-day stuff, right? So let's say that you are a manager and you're going in, you're checking to make sure that everybody, to make sure that John doesn't have more permissions than he should have. Well, that's an operational control. It's day to day. So you have people that do that day in and day out. Then you have your managerial control. This is managerial in nature. This is just a piece of papers, documentation. Every time someone gets hired, they have this normally password policy that says you should have changed your password every 90 days. So sign here that everything is owned by the company. Those are managerial controls, documentations. So where you're going to find a lot of cybersecurity, though, it's into the technical stuff. That's where a lot of us are going to be. And that's okay. That's okay. But just know that whenever you want to secure a company, you have to utilize all of them. Ideally, you want to have managerial control and then enforce these other controls by putting some technical in place. I'll give you a great example, then I'm going to move on. Imagine you have a document that says every 90 days, change your password. Guess how many people are going to change their password after 90 days? Probably none, unless you force them. Probably nobody. So what we can do, we can literally go into the technical, maybe something like Microsoft Active Directory, using what we normally call group policy, right? GP, or something we're going to talk about in more depth. We can go in and just tell group policy, hey, look, man, look, after 90 days, shut that account down unless they change the password. So once we do that, then the users are going to be like, holy moly, I got to change the password. So again, we want to put these in place, but have them work interchangeable or implement all of them together to make sure that the whole thing is secure. So other thing we can do. Now, guys, this will pop up on the exam. This will pop up on the exam. These right here will pop up on the exam, specifically detected. So other things we can do, part of the controls are the function. Remember, these are the implementation. We are implementing a firewall. We are implementing access control list, right? That's what these are. These right here are the function, right? The work, the configurations, the things that we actually do to implement those things. So one function is preventative. Preventative. It could be like a physical control, it could be a logical control, but what we're doing here, we are restricting unauthorized access. And for the most part, this happens before an attack. Someone give me an example of a preventative control, something that we can put in place to prevent something from happening. You say a router, Tony?
Firewall.
Firewall. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna be disappointed if nobody says a firewall, because when we're talking about security, this is the very first device that pops in people's brain is a firewall.
If you have, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Tony. Go ahead.
Because that has the access control list, and that's like the first thing that the firewall looks at is who has access, who's coming into your network.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, we're going to have a section where we talk about firewalls in different depth. But what Tony just said is exactly what the firewall does. We can create an access control list, ACL. We can configure what we normally call the firewall rules, right? Which means deny or allow. And that's exactly what the firewall is going to do. Just look at the rule and be like, okay, are you supposed to be here? No, go back. Are you supposed to be here? Yes, come on in. It's very simple. And normally a lot of people say a firewall is a very mean device because it does what is told, right? If you're not on that list of allowed, just gonna send you back. All right, give me some more example of anything we can put in place to prevent something from happening.
Something like antivirus, would that be?
Yeah.
Would that be a preventative? Yeah, antivirus software on your systems.
Yeah, John. So what do we use AV for? Antivirus programs.
To prevent viruses from attacking your systems, malware, it's a preventive. Try to stop
Absolutely.
access to our systems.
Love it. Anybody have anything else?
Would a DMZ count?
DMZ, demilitarized zone. Yeah, we can. DMZ it's not like more like a control. It's more like a place. but we can't have stuff in DMZ where we prevent people from accessing those things. Yep.
Would a VPN be one?
There we go. We're getting somewhere. Absolutely. Ah, I like you guys. Great team. All right, let's go to the next one. Detective. What can we use, right, as a control to detect stuff from happening? And this doesn't have to be cybersecurity related, guys. Just give me anything.
Well, John mentioned earlier the antivirus, the heuristic ones, the ones that detect, yeah, patterns, right?
Patterns, right? Behavior based, right? Detect those anomalies. We're going to talk about that in more depth. Good one.
I'm thinking of some type of audit or something. I'm not some type of auditing system, something that's constantly checking to make sure what what it is says it is truly what it is. Yeah, some type of auditing system, auditing logs or something. Just like as a form of determining is this valid data coming to me and such.
Love it. Absolutely. And we have a lot of those. Oh my goodness. What you're trying to describe, a scene might be described as that. Because this is that central location where we're going to send all the logs. Then you, as the security analyst, can determine is this bad or is this not bad? Is this allowed? Or like a SIEM will give you that visibility for you to be able to detect malicious activities. Fantastic. Yeah, we also have a syslog for my Linux folks. Right? Syslog comes with any Linux operating systems, and it can also be used for detecting stuff. We're going to talk about that in more depth, right? But IDS. So the thing is this, guys, is that detective controls, they are designed to detect some things. Sometimes they will not stop it. Now, in the case of an IDS, intrusion detection system, we have another thing that we normally call IPS. Again, guys, this is a kind of a high level. We're gonna talk about more of these other stuff later on. But IPS, intrusion prevention system, that can detect stuff and then prevent stuff from happening as well. But again, we're talking about detective. You might have, let's say, a CCTV camera. That's what they're gonna tell me the lab stuff, CCTV. So CCTV not only will be able to detect something is happening, but it might also deter, right? Discourage someone from doing anything stupid, right? Anything that they're gonna regret. LeGrand, you wanted to say something?
Would things like honeypot or sinkhole or sandbox, would that be more preventative, or is that more detective?
So honeypots will be part of the detective, because that's more like a decoy, right? We're setting that up to just watch what the hackers are doing within our environment. So we're detecting them in a sense. But there are some other controls some other functions that we're going to talk about that kind of aligned those things. That's like a honeypot and sandboxing are better aligned with those. But you brought up a really good point. I want you guys to know that all these controls that we're talking about, they can do multiple things. It doesn't have to just say, okay, this is this. No. For example, a CCTV, it's a physical control. Literally, it's a physical control. You can touch, you can look at it, but it can also detect stuff. And that's it, right? CCTV can do nothing else. It can tell you, hey, we're recording you, but that's about it. All right, good stuff. Corrective, right? Corrective. This is response to and fixes the incident, right? It may also prevent the attack from happening. Now, this is what we do as, as what human beings, right? What we're gonna do after the attack, corrective, making things right. So you work as a SOC analyst, in a sense, you're doing some corrective control. Again, there are other devices that will do this as well. A prime example will be IPS. Already mentioned this one, right? IPS not only it's gonna detect things, it will also respond, prevent it. But the thing is, it's preventing something that is happening already. So these will happen during the attack, right? Or maybe, some sense, maybe after the attack. Another thing, and Lagrange just mentioned that it's a sandbox. So there's a piece of malware that is taking place. We want to stop that, or we want to be able to analyze that. And it's after the attack. Let's just put that thing into a sandbox, an isolated environment where we're able to learn about how this thing works. Few other controls. Again, you see this popping up. I got quizzes at the end of this where we're going to talk about this. Physical control, things such as turntile. What is a turntile, guys?
An adult merry-go-round.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So anything you can touch and feel and smell is probably physical, right? So those are controls, gateways, alarms, a clock, locks, doors, you name it, physical, hardware, like similar to what you see here. So a company can put these in place not only to stop things from happening, but also to deter someone from doing whatever they were planning on doing. And that leads me to the next control here. It's known as deterrent. This may not physically or logically prevent access, but it's going to psychologically deter someone from doing something and discouraging someone. Similar to what you see here. Once they see these, they're like, God, all right, let's not do that. Not that they cannot do it, but it just psychologically they're thinking, okay, what might happen if I do that? So deter, discourage. Compensating. This one will be on the exam, and physical control as well will be on the exam. These two. Compensating control, it's a control that we put in place as an kind of an alternative to the primary function. What do you exactly mean? Imagine if we were supposed to have a CCTV camera, but for some reason, this is not ready. This is the control we want, but it's not ready. So let me ask you guys this. What could be a compensating control? What could be a substitute to this that we can put in place as we wait for CCTV to be implemented?
A security guard.
Security guard, absolutely. That was a good one. What else?
A door,
Yeah, okay.
a door, a chain link, some, yeah, bear trap.
Gotcha. Right. So security guards, security patrol guys, the dog, like those security dogs, right? So ideally we want something that can be performing the same function of a CCTV. What is the function of a CCTV? Again, monitoring the environment, right? But if you have like a security guard, not only they can keep watching of what's taking place, but they will also deter someone. Because how many people that stop, but not doing something because they saw a security guard? almost everybody, right? So, but the security guard might also stop something from happening. That's why, like, it's hard to substitute a human. Like, humans are humans. So they can perform a lot of these controls. Again, compensating, physical, deter. Remember these guys. CompTIA is all over these controls. That's why I'm taking my time here to make sure you understand them. They will pop up on the exam. Any questions before we go on? No, fantastic. So NIST, the cybersecurity framework, we kind of talked about this one already. So again, this is just going to go in and just tell you everything that you're going to do, right? And they have all kinds of stuff, guys. Like NIST have special publications. They have SPs where they just, it's just like a recommendation. Like they're telling companies, hey, look, this is a special publication that you can use to do A, B, and C. They also have standards. It's in the name, right? Things that if you follow them, you're good to go. But also NIST is the one that is in charge of FIPS, the Federal Information Processing Standard. They're in charge of the risk management framework, cybersecurity framework. We looked at this earlier today, right? So, and again, these SP. So for example, there's SP, there's NIST 800, SP 800. This is one of the most common cybersecurity framework there is. Again, the only thing you need to remember as far as the exam goes, it's that NIST is very active in cyberspace. And a lot of the things that the corporate people do, corporate companies do, they copy those things from NIST. And NIST is a government body, and they have all kinds of standards. You don't have to do them. Like literally, you don't have to follow what NIST says, but there are standards. There are there just in case you want to. Not going to spend too much time on that, but what I'm going to spend too much time on is the ISO. Who's here have heard about ISO? ISO. All right, well, these are going to be all over your exam. Let's take some time to talk about these.
ISO.
Yeah. So NIST is more like a US thing because it works on behalf of the US government, right? But what if your company is international? What are some of the standards can you follow? Well, welcome to the ISO. So ISO, which stands for International Organization for Standardization, it's a company that is probably it's a nonprofit. I should probably say it's a company. It's a nonprofit company that its sole mission is to help companies be more secure. If you have offices outside of the US, you probably have to comply with ISO. Now, ISO got different kind of publications, if you will, or standardization. One of it is the 27001. Please remember these numbers. I hate to say it, but remember these. ISO 27001, it's for information security management. This is the big picture. Let's say that you're a company who's operating internationally and you want to put security in place. Well, 27001 is going to be that big picture. It's going to tell you, you must have a firewall. You must configure your firewall this way. So it's going to give you the big picture of what exactly you should be doing, management, right? Then you have the 27002. This one is the techniques, the procedures, the controls that you're going to put in place. So 27001 is going to tell you, you must configure a firewall. Then 27002 is going to go ahead and give you the techniques of how you're going to go in and just configure that firewall. So one is the management, another one is the kind of the technicals or the techniques, if you will, of how to put those things in place. And then we have the 27001 certification. And this is not like your Security Plus. This is a certification that can be given to a company. So how do we know that Austin's company is secure? Well, if they have a certification from ISO, if they have the 27001 certification, it's going to ensure the customers, the organizations, that these guys are taking security serious. Okay, so it's more like a company's commitment to security. It's like you, once you become security certified, that tells everybody you are committed, for cybersecurity. You've taken steps to become certified. Same thing here, but again, the certification is for companies, not for individuals. All right. And then last one, ISO 277. This is the only one with the 7. 27701. This is for privacy. There's one thing you have to remember about this. It's just privacy. Now, companies like Google and Facebook, their whole business model is designed around people's data, right? So they can, sell you some ads. So cybersecurity is going haywire on them. And 27001, it's one of those kind of, it's an extension. Let me just put it that way. It's an extension of 001 and 002, but it's designed specifically for privacy. It's telling companies, how are you using customers' data? Like, it's giving more right to the users, right? Companies now have to disclose to you what kind of data they're collecting and what they're gonna use those data on. Have you ever visited a website and then there's like a pop-up that talks about cookies?
Always.
Always, right? That's this right here. That's the privacy. Nobody reads that stuff, but basically all they're telling you is that, hey, look, John, this is what we're collecting and this is how we're using it. And then there's another one. You might not see this on the exam, but that's the 31K, right? This is for the enterprise risk management. Keyword here, risk management. 31K means the 3000, right? 3001 is designed for risk management. You are an enterprise. You want to manage the risk of your enterprise. Then you can utilize this framework here. Now, let me recap what I just said, because this is a lot and almost all of it is going to be on your exam. So 27001 is the big picture. 27002 is the techniques. 27001 certification is for a company. And that shows the company is complying, they're taking security serious. 27701 is the privacy. If you can remember that, you're going to be able to answer most of the questions that I'm going to have later on here for you. And now that we're on this topic, let me just bring up this website so I can just share these with you guys. We're almost done with chapter 1. I'm just dragging my feet because I want to make sure you guys understand this stuff. All right, I'm going to put this in the chat. Not chat, Discord. Again, guys, make sure you have access to this. If you don't, let me know so we can get you there. Oh, that was the 27002. Now, I'm not saying go start reading all this documentation. I'll tell you, when I was doing my master's degree, this is what they had us doing. It was boring as life. You can only do this if you're getting paid like $70 to $100 per hour because you got that motivation. Otherwise, it's very boring. But anyway, all I want you, maybe visit the website, take a look at them. I think it's better to see these, right? At least visualize them than me telling you what they do. If you have a minute, read at least the summary of these. Like I said, they will pop up on the exam. Another thing, guys, cloud. Cloud is huge. Every company now is moving to the cloud. So there are, AWS, Microsoft, Azure, and Google. They kind of went together. They formed what they normally call a cloud security alliance. And this is in charge of developing frameworks that companies have to utilize when they're going to the cloud. So they have this thing called cloud controls metrics. It's basically different kind of best practices, if you will, of what the company needs to know or needs to do as they're migrating their stuff into the cloud. Kind of like a guidelines, if you will. These might definitely not show up on the exam, but just in case. Right? Cloud. There are other frameworks. These might not show up on the exam, but it's another SOC. And this one, guys, it's not the Security Operations Center. This is the Service Organization Control. Again, Service Organization Control. And is designed by this organization here, SSAE, which is a nonprofit organization that kind of put this together. So what these are other kind of certifications, if you will, that a company might become certified on this. Before I even go there, guys, it used to be really hard. Really hard for company A to know that company B is secure. That's the whole reason why this came to be, the SOC. For example, Tony's company and my company, we want to do business together, but how do I know Tony's company is secure? I do not. And I can't just go in and start asking them, hey, do you guys have firewall? What about IDs? What about IP? So SOC came in and kind of solve that problem. So they have what they normally call assessment. One of it is type 1. So SOC 2 type 1. It's an assessment that goes in and look at the design. Design means that, okay, is this system designed in a way to be secure? Do you have segmentation, right? Do you have firewalls? Do you have these? Do you have is literally looking at the core foundation of security? Because a lot of these companies, a lot of this so-called secure environment, or let me just say it this way. When we're talking about security, guys, security have to start from scratch. Like you have to include security as you're designing your environment. And this report, type 1, SOC 2 type 1, goes in and look at the design. Another one is the type 2. Type 2 is basically just like type 1, right? It's just like a type 1, but now we're doing an ongoing assessment. In other words, guys, we're holding the company accountable for 6 months. Having a secure design kind of an environment is not enough. Now we need to make sure you're practicing while you preach. Okay, you say you're secure by design. Now we're just going to keep an eye on you for 6 months to make sure. That's the type 2. This one is comprehensive. It's a different kind of it's a different kind of assessment. And ideally, you want a company. If you're going to do business with any company, you want a company that is SOC 2 certified. Because that means not only they're secure by design, but they're, someone have hold them accountable. Then you have your other one, SOC 3. This one is for compliance purposes. This one is for general use. SOC 2 is more for kind of a company type of a stuff. SOC 1 is more for general use. It contains way less details, okay, and used for at some point used for kind of individual levels. So that's SOC 3. These might not pop up on the exam, but here they are. Any questions, guys? No, all right. Another thing. So guidelines are great, but what if you want to do a specific thing, right? For example, let's say that you want to harden your firewall or your operating system. How can you do that? Well, we have benchmarks and security configurations guides. The best place to go to see these is with the CIS. I've already shown you this website before. Let me go back there one more time. These guys, when you sign up with them and sign in, they have benchmarks. And those benchmarks, they go in and they tell you how to secure a specific thing. For example, let's say that you want to, let me see if I can sign in. Yeah, there we go. It's still signing. Damn it. I'm not gonna send the password. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. But let me just let you know that, guys, they have what they normally call benchmarks, and what those are different guides that help you secure a specific thing. So let's say that you want to secure your cloud environment. Well, CIS, it's gonna have a guide, a piece of paper that goes in and tell you the steps by steps of how you're gonna do that. Some of these might be operating system based, might be vendor specific. Again, they're designed to tell you the specifics, the configurations, how to secure this specific thing. Another one that is interesting is OWASP. We will talk about OWASP, but this one is for securing your web applications. Right? We will come back to OWASP. OWASP have what they normally call the top 10. And these are kind of the things that you will do if you're securing web applications. And those are, like I said, the configurations. All right. Few other things, boring stuff. Again, guys, I promise you, this is the only boring stuff you're gonna see. Right? After this, we're just gonna dive into the cool stuff. The rest of the other chapters, it's not gonna be a lot of these documentation. But it's nice to get this out of the way, especially on day one. So we got some regulations, standards, and the legislations. So these right here, they're great, right? Frameworks, benchmarks, they're great, but you don't have to do them. And nobody's gonna hold you accountable if you don't do them, right? But we have laws. And if you don't do these, you will get in trouble. So one of it's the SOX. Now SOX was, came around, I think in 2003. And this was kind of designed to protect investors from companies, right? You invest your money into Wells Fargo, they wanna make sure they don't get away with, with your money. And this is based on what happened in 2001, I believe. That's when, the Congress was like, we got to do a bet on this whole finance stuff. They came up with this law. Another one we have, it's a Computer Security Act. This is the 1987. They revised this one into the 2001, the Patriot Act. And this thing, guys, literally goes in, says, if you touch someone's computer without a written permission, you can easily go to jail. That's basically what that says. So I'm going to be sharing a lot of this with you, but our industry, cybersecurity, you got to be very careful with your knowledge, especially when you become a hacker. A lot of the tools that I'm going to use, that I'm going to teach you, you can't use those tools on someone's computer or someone's network. You will get yourself in trouble with this. Another one we have here, it's Federal Information Security Management Act, FISMA. This one is designed to protect federal kind of environments. For those that does, like John and them that does, kind of a government contracts and stuff like that, this here, you have to comply with this one. Then you have your GLBA, right? GLBA, again, it's one of those other kind of a financial institutions. It goes in, it tells them how they deal with the private information that they're collecting. Okay, but not a whole lot of companies really pay much attention to this. You have your HIPAA. This is for your healthcare. Everybody knows about HIPAA, right? Everybody. Then you have your California. The reason why a lot of people are moving out of California. They can't, can you imagine, they have their own law. So California Consumer Privacy Act. This one goes in, is designed to protect consumer data. As you know, the Googles, the Facebooks, and all these other big giant companies that are based in Silicon Valley, in California. So this law came in to have this company kind of provide more information about how they're using the data that they're collecting from them. You asking me to give you my name and my birth and when I was born, how are you going to use that? Okay. So this is really not that big of a deal as far as the exam goes, but here are the two things that you should be worried about. This right here, the GDPR. Who's here have heard about this? Yeah, Austin. Okay, all right. What do you know about the GDPR, Austin?
Privacy Act International, and from my understanding, if you break it, it's like Interpol comes after you and gives you a big ticket. Something like that.
Yeah, you're right on the money. Let me show you guys a few incidents that have happened in the past. They're like unbelievable. So what GDPR says is that if you break this law, we're gonna take 10% of your profit. Can you imagine how much is that for Google? Like $100 billion company, 10% of their profit. It's a lot. So Google and I think Uber, GDPR on Uber. Yeah, this wasn't that much. I think it was how much? 1 million that they charged them. Let's see, Google. Every company have become a victim of this. And this came out in 2018. It's when they put this into works. Check this out. Just in 2020, they got fined for 27 million for just messing around with EU kind of a citizen data. This is the international, like what Austin said, for these European countries. And what they're saying is that we don't care where you are in the world. If you collect our citizens' data, you got to comply with the GDPR. And if you don't, we're coming after you. And the fine we're going to give you, lucky if you're Google, because otherwise you're just going to go out of business. So a few things that you need to know, because again, guys, this is going to be all over your exam. One, this is designed for EU, right? It's an international standard that is designed for privacy, data privacy. That's what this literally is designed for. Again, there's a big fine comes if you don't comply with this. But there's some specific things you need to know. One is a data processor, data controller. Just like HIPAA, within HIPAA, I used to work as an information security officer, and a lot of what we used to do was security assessment and stuff. And HIPAA was one of it because I was working for a nonprofit that was in healthcare space. But literally, HIPAA goes in and specifically tell you, we need to know who is in charge of, who's like a security officer. Like if everything goes wrong right here, who are we gonna go after? And that's exactly what GDPR is doing. If you're complying with the GDPR, you have to have a person, an individual who is processing the data, who is controlling the data. So a data processor is a person, if you will, that is processing the data that they're collecting on the behalf of the data controller, right? The data controller, it could be like a manager who's managing the GDPR, who's saying, okay, we're collecting usernames, we're collecting passwords, we're collecting this. And the data processor will be that particular individual who works with that. These are specific terminologies that are part of the GDPR language. And you should remember them for your exam. Another one we have here is PCI. And guys, I'm coming to an end here. PCI DSS. Who's here have heard about PCI?
For credit cards.
or credit cards. Yeah. So again, if it doesn't matter if you're online, you're an international companies, they don't care. This was created by Visa, MasterCards, and all these, all the big names. So it's huge. So if you're a company and you're going to be accepting a credit card information payments online, e-commerce, using a register, they don't care. You have to comply with this law. If you do not, they're coming after you. Okay, so the biggest thing to remember here is what Tony said, credit cards. You can remember payments and credit cards, and I mean, you should be good on this one. You're probably gonna see 1 or 2 questions on the exam that asks about GDPR and PCI. Again, guys, this was a lot information. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna have a nightmare tonight, right? It's gonna be dreaming about this stuff. So any questions?
Just real quickly, you said that the data controllers are like the managers and the processors were obviously the people processing the data, as the name suggests. But which part did you say the data controllers were?
The data controller were the managers. Yeah, so they define the rules of how the data will be collected and how it will be processed and all that stuff. Then they hand it out over to the processors. It could be the same person who's doing this. But like I said, these are the language of GDPR.
Okay, that's all I have.
Fantastic. All right, guys. So there's no questions. I'm gonna go ahead and check your understanding. Lesson quiz. So I'm gonna need one of you to read. We're gonna answer these quickly, then we're gonna take a break, then we're gonna jump into chapter 2. All right, who wanna volunteer to read this?
I'll go ahead and read. It's John.
Go ahead, John.
All right.
Oops, sorry.
An organization recently acquired an ISO 27001 certification. Which of the following would most likely be considered a benefit of this certification? Go ahead and read the possible options.
No, just guys, everybody can read this on their own.
Okay.
All right, talk to me. What do you guys think? Tony said-
The bottom one. It assures customers that the organization meets security standards.
I agree with that answer.
Everybody agrees? Tony said,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. Because that's
Yes,
the first
agreed.
one. So that's the one that establishes the framework or the standards for everything else.
That's the certification, absolutely. All right, number 2.
I'll read it. Which of the following best describes the method a security analyst would use to confirm a file that is downloaded from a trusted security website is not altered in transit or corrupted using a verified checksum?
Hashing.
Yeah, we had this question. This,
that's-
this is the
that's
first one.
familiar.
This is we first one we failed on.
Exactly.
I will always remember what Austin said, checksum. Because of the word checksum, you should know it's hashing.
Yeah, hashing. There we go. You guys are doing great. I want to read this one. Guys, let's take turns.
A recent audit uncovered a key finding regarding the use of a specific encryption standard in a web application that is used to communicate with business customers. Due to the technical limitations of its customers, the company is unable to upgrade the encryption standard. Which of the following types of controls should be used to reduce the risk created by this scenario?
It's a good one.
I would go with compensating while they're waiting to get the ability to upgrade. They could put something in place, while they get the ability to get what they actually want to prevent any further issues.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too, because like preventative, by that time, you're already past the preventative stage. Physical is obviously the day-to-day operation, so you're in that physical moment, I guess.
Mm.
Detective,
Will identify a record.
you're identifying. So it's asking us, which one would you use to avoid or to reduce the risk? So probably compensating.
Compensating. Everybody agree with
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said, you guys are amazing. I also like how you're thinking through it. This is good. This is good. But also keywords, right? We're looking at reducing the risks. It's not like it's going to go away completely, but we want to reduce it. All right. Think one or two more.
Oh, this is credit cards, so going to be the
First one?
PCI DSS.
Yeah, I agree with that one as well.
Yeah.
I didn't even have time to finish reading.
Well, as soon as you see credit card, it's like, oh, okay. Process of elimination.
All right. So all you better see just the payments and the credit card, then it's PCI. Be careful with that though. When you're taking the actual exam, be sure to read the whole question.
All the way through.
Yeah, all the way to the end. But you guys are right.
They use trickery there where they'd use something like that, but also truly referencing something else.
Absolutely. Just like, let me go back a little bit here. Just like here, you're going to say a lot of nonsense and just give you a few keywords. And you want to read through the whole thing and think through it before you go ahead. All right, last question.
Are we allowed to say which answer we think?
Which one, Austin, you said?
GDPR.
Yeah, GDPR.
GDPR? Okay. I think I heard 3 people saying that, so.
Must be right then, no.
Yeah, you guys are really good, right? So the only thing here that was intentional and the data privacy. Yeah, those two should have just kind of triggered that. All right. Any questions with lesson 1?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. All right. Let's go ahead and take about 5 minutes, and we're going to get going after that.
Thank you.
And if I do forget to record, please remind me. I always do. So remind me that we don't, we don't miss anything. Lesson number 2. Lesson 2 is a little bit interesting. It's short. Hopefully we're going to finish it within 1 hour, within the minutes we have left. But we'll see how things goes. So explaining threat actors and threat intelligence. So we're going to learn about who's out there that's potentially after our data, that's potentially after our company. Let's say that you work in healthcare, where there are some threat actors, some enemies, hackers, who their primary function is to target people that are in healthcare. Then, to the power of threat intelligence, understanding who they are, this chapter is going to help you kind of get the knowledge of knowing, okay, who are these guys? What motivates them? And how can I find where they are so I can avoid them, or I can hunt for them, maybe. So it's kind of interesting. Let's dive right in. 1.5, it's what I'm talking about from the exam objective. So as you go back, put your check marks on 1.5. Pop quiz. Yeah, you're not going to get away with this one. So who can read this and before we get started?
An organization just experienced a major cyber attack incident. The attack was well coordinated, sophisticated, and highly skilled. Which of the following targeted? The advanced persistent threat.
All right. Tony said APT, advanced persistence threat. Okay.
I agree with Tony.
Going to agree. Was that Austin or John? You say you agree?
I'm still thinking it over. I mean, hacktivists could be that is a group of individuals that do that specific type of activity, and they're well funded, and it also could be an insider threat if you to a degree. This advanced persistent threat that tells me that somebody that's just constantly testing, checking over and over and over again to do this. And this is asking for what organization did this. I'm gonna go with activists.
Activist. All right. Well, John, the folks who said D, they are going to be correct. But I understand where you're coming from, right? A lot of this is you have some hacktivist group that are highly skilled. Like literally, the stuff that they put off, you're like, oh my God, I didn't know you guys can do that. But the word sophisticated and persistent, sometimes it might not be into their description, right? If this thing is taking like 10 years to implement, they're not going to care. Like, you know what, forget about this. But persistent, if your company is being targeted by these guys, there is no question they're going to get in. No matter who is the cybersecurity professional, they will get in. Which is kind of takes us back to the first thing we were talking about earlier. Prevention is ideal, but detection is a must, right? They will get in. Literally, guys, if the attacker want to get in, they will get in, It might take them years, but they're very persistent. And they might use some advanced techniques, advanced tools, all of that good stuff. But if they manage to get in, we need to detect them. That's what we're gonna have to do. And John, we're gonna talk about the rest of these insider threat and hacktivist. That's all part of this class. So, guys, let's get busy. Now, before we dive in and talk about all these other great stuff, let me just throw a few keywords at you first. The first one is vulnerability. What is a vulnerability? Anybody?
Exposure. That's
A weakness.
weakness. There you go. Exposure open to.
Exposure, a weakness, absolutely. So a weakness, I like that. What about a threat? What is a threat? Austin, if you say something, you're cutting it off. I didn't hear anything you said. Still.
There we go. Something exploiting those weaknesses.
All right, a threat will be something that's exploiting those weaknesses. I like that, right?
Yeah.
This will be the APT, the threat, the bad guy, the adversary, the activist, the insider threat. All right, what about a risk?
It's not like just the calculated like loss that you're willing to take.
You say the likelihood, you said?
Yeah, like the risk, like you know what like your expected loss is going to be, like you know what's at stake or what you're going to be losing, or you know what your loss is.
Right. No, you are definitely on the right path. Someone want to help out?
This is like you were just saying, the potential loss. What's the I don't want to say the exposure, but what type of data is going to be lost that you could possibly lose if you don't, if these people can get into your data? What's gonna happen to you?
The impact.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, right. You're like, we want to say impact, but that's your word. So not I like that. Yeah, no, definitely. You guys are right? So risks, it's literally anything that's going to happen if these two happens. Now, let me tell y'all something. In cybersecurity, this is how we look at it. There is a math, kind of like a math, really, that we do when we're doing this in the real world. So if there is a threat and there's a vulnerability, that's when you have a risk. So these two, a threat and the vulnerability, have to exist before you can have a risk. In other words, guys, if there isn't an APT, like an advanced persistence threat, but you don't have any weaknesses that they can use against you, do you have a risk? The answer is probably no. There's no risk there because there's no weaknesses that they can use to attack you. And the same thing apply if there's a vulnerability, but there's no threat, there's no one to exploit that vulnerability, then there's no risk. So I want you to remember that. That's kind of the equation, if you will. You might see that pop up on the exam. So before we can start thinking about the impact, the likelihood, how often this will happen, how that, these two things have to exist. There has to be a threat, there has to be a vulnerability. Once those two are there, then we have a risk. Then we can do some risk mitigations, risk register, risk calculations. Again, we have a whole chapter where we're going to talk about risk management, which is one of those core competencies that a cybersecurity professional must have. All right, that being said, I'm going to just get going here. We have a lot to talk about. All right, so attributes of a threat actors. So threat actors come into different, kind of shapes and sizes, and You never know what is motivating them. So we have some known threats and what they actually do, their behaviors. For example, there's one threat that have been killing us down here in the US. It's called Reveal ransomware. This is Revel. It's kind of a gang. It's one of those Russian gangs. And oh my goodness, if you have ever heard about the 3 recently attacks that took place in the news, these guys were behind it. You guys ever heard about the Colonial Pipeline attack?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was these guys. Have you heard about the JBS meat? It was JBS
Yeah.
meat? These guys again. And there's another attack that took place with CompTIA. This one was huge. CompTIA, and they were asking about $70 million, literally. And this is not a long time ago, guys. This is at the end of 2021. And it was these guys. So I'm trying to tell you, once we know those guys are out there and they are constantly exploiting, constantly doing what they normally call ransomware attacks, something we're going to talk about in more depth later on here, then we can learn their TTPs. This is the tactics, techniques, and procedures. We're going to talk about this in more depth. And we can learn their indicator of compromise, IOCs. And this, again, we're going to talk about this once we talk about threat intelligence in more depth. But once we know these, the attributes of these attackers, once we know their techniques, their tactics, their procedures, once we know their IP addresses, right, what they use, their domain names, then we can take some action. And again, I'm talking about this in more depth. But back to this, we have internal threats and external threat. One of the biggest issues a lot of us make is to think that the rival, these groups, these hacking groups, the outsider are the threat. And for the most part, it's kind of like that. But I tell you what, for the most part, when a company gets breached, it's because someone from the inside did something. They invite them. They clicked on that phishing email, right? So cybersecurity professionals, this is where we have to focus on, because a lot of the things that we've been doing for the past 20 some years is literally designed around someone who's outside of your organization. Think about firewall, like firewall, routers, IDS, IPS, all these things are designed from, okay, you come in, we don't like you, we stop you. And these things works really well. But what if someone from the inside opened the door? Is there anything else that we can do in that sense? And one of the things that you're going to hear me talk about today is zero trust. Who's here have heard about zero trust? No one? Tony, I think you want to say something. Go ahead.
No, it's kind of shaky, so I'd just rather get the right answer.
Okay. Well, zero trust is one of those emerging technology that different companies are putting in place. And what this is doing, it's protecting our environment. It's like protecting our environment from the people who are supposed to be using that environment. So internal. Right? You and I are supposed to be using company's infrastructure, but the company doesn't trust us at all. Like our access, we're constantly doing multi-factor authentication. We're constantly being asked to log in. They're monitoring where we're logging in from before they give us the privileges and so on and so forth. So again, this is an emerging technology. Every company now, they claim themselves to be zero trust because it's kind of like a buzzword right now, right? But it works, right? It's going in, it's solving the problem we've been ignoring for the past 2 years. The internal, the people who open the doors. All right, a few other things. Intent. All right, so what is motivating them? Right, some of them are for the money. A lot of these guys are for the money, but you have your APT, your advanced persistence threat. You have your nation states, all right? You know, people that hack on the behalf of their government. These people don't need your money. They can print their own money, right? So guess what they want? Intellectual properties, right? They want to maybe show off, right? In the case of Russia and the US, see who is the big guy, right? So, right, it reminds me when President Trump was the president, and was, you know, it was on Twitter, I believe, where he said, somebody tell the guy in North Korea that I have a button that is bigger than his button. Which was interesting, right? But again, motivations, right? Level of sophistication, funding, and all that stuff. These are the other things that we have to consider, other attributes. Because when we're talking about this is on a hacking group, another question we need to ask ourselves is, okay, do they have the funding? Can they really put this off? Can they do it? Because this stuff is very sophisticated, guys. Not anybody can just wake up and start hacking. So you got to have the funding. You got to have the right motivations. And whenever someone has all these attributes, then we can worry about them because they're coming for us and they're not going to stop. All right, now let's dive deep and talk about these in more depth. So hackers, script kiddies, and hacktivists. All right, let me start with hacktivists. Hacktivists, it's a team, a group of people that do the hacking. But for the most part, it's because of someone did something that they don't believe in, right? Something that they go against. For example, if you can think about what took place, for example, they might be motivated by political means. If you can think about in 2016 about what took place with the Hillary Clinton, you know, her emails being exposed and stuff like that. That could have been a group of hacktivists. I mean, obviously, they said it was like Russia or something, but it could have been easily be a group of hacktivists because maybe they didn't like what she did with whatever they say, Benghazi or whatever heck else that, you know, they said in the news. But again, hacktivists, sometimes they hack because there is something that they fundamentally believe in and they think, you know, it's being violated. Another thing I should mention about hacktivists, guys, is that they're very dangerous because sometimes they don't even care about being caught, right? That's why you got to watch Mr. Robot. That's another homework for you. Watch Mr. Robot. A great show. But again, they don't care about being caught, which makes them very dangerous. Another thing, script kiddies. Script kiddies, it's someone, probably a kid, right? Probably a young person who doesn't know about hiding themselves, but maybe they picked up a hacking tool and then they're using those tools to hack something, right? There's all kinds of tools. Oh my goodness. This program, specifically this Kali Linux, comes with hundreds hacking tools that anybody can pick them up and start using them. So script kiddie is someone who doesn't know really hacking, but they're just using tools that are pre-made. Then you have your white hat hackers and black hat hackers, right? And gray hat hackers. These are like hackers, but these are kind of different profiles for them. And I'll tell you what they are because they will pop up on the exam. White hat hackers, this is someone who knows how to hack, but they're using those skills for the good things, right? These are the penetration testers. Then you have your black hat hackers. These are the ones who knows how to hack, but they're using those skills for the bad things. These are your bad guys. Then you have your gray hat hackers. These are the ones in between. So they're good and they're bad, right? In the daytime, they can be working for a company as a researcher, cybersecurity professional. But when it gets, nighttime, they go on the dark web somewhere, try to sell information that they found online. Right? Gray hat hackers. And whenever they're doing this hacking, sometimes they might be authorized. In the case of a white hat, sometimes they might not be authorized. Gray hat, and sometimes it might be in that gray area. Great example, then I'm going to move on, is what happened in 2020. There was an attack on Twitter. That attack compromised accounts of well-known folks: Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, like every person you can imagine, like the big names. And then it was everywhere on their accounts saying that, oh, I'm feeling generous, I'm giving back to the community, send some money on this Bitcoin address, and then I'm gonna double it. I'm telling you guys, in less than 1 minute, over 100,000 like US dollars had already been sent to those Bitcoin addresses in 1 minute. And they traced back the attack, and they found out that this kid was responsible from Florida. And this is where I tell you about script kiddies, because someone who knows what they're doing, if you're able to hack Twitter, then compromise accounts such as Joe Biden's account, everybody's coming for you. Every US intelligence agency is coming for you. So you got to make sure you've hidden your tracks, meaning there's no way they can find where you are. But unfortunately, they found this kid, 17-year-old kid in Florida. And if you guys remember the Patriot Act I was talking about a minute ago, the 2001, they literally accused this guy of so many things that he's never going to get out of jail. Ever. So anyway, the takeaway here, guys, is what I just described here: script kiddies, hacktivists, and these white hat hackers and black hat, and because that's what's going to be on the exam. All right, a few other things. Then you have your state-sponsored, right? These are highly sophisticated political party. They might be working on behalf of a military, secret services. Again, if they're after you, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, other than, making sure that all you have to do here is to just do your best. Because if they're after you, they will get in. And again, highly sophisticated, and they work on behalf of their government. You got APTs. APTs are secret. They can be working on the behalf of a government, or it can be a really group, it's a regular group that is very sophisticated, that is well coordinated. In other words, guys, they operate as a business. They have managers, they have everything you can imagine. And they're also highly sophisticated. So one thing I should mention is about the name itself, advanced persistence threat. Like, what does that even mean? Advanced means they have advanced skills. Not only they use tools that are pre-made, they can code their own tools. How many people here have heard about 0-day? 0-day attacks. Yeah, put your hands up. Gotcha. Well, these groups, they can come up with their own 0 days. Literally, that's why they have advanced in their names. Then you have persistent, meaning if they're after you, they don't care if it's going to take them 10 years. They're going to get you. And obviously, there are threats. Espionage. Sometimes they might be hacking not for the money. Like I said, they might be want to take advantage of a country. I mean, China been doing this like for years, you know, for the US. Right? I mean, yeah. So why do you think they're, you know, progressing economically, right? They had a lot of different APTs that hack on the behalf of the Chinese government. And all they do, they don't need no money. They just want to steal intellectual properties. They want to spy on different, you know, companies and so on and so forth. And then when you ask them, did you guys did it? No, we have no idea who did that. And they're just going to deny everything. The only thing you can remember here is nation state and APT, and you're going to be good on the exam. Any questions? Because I'm just rolling here. Any questions, guys?
Nation state is what, on behalf of the government, APT is just highly skilled.
Yeah, highly skilled, very sophisticated, coordinated. They run like a company. So the group I was showing you guys, Revo, that's an APT. Yeah, they even do like, it's insane. They literally do ransomware as a service. So if Tony want Revo to attack some other country, can go to them and tell them, look, let's attack these guys. This is all the information I know about them. We're gonna divide the money that we steal, basically. So you can hire them to hack a company. Criminal syndicates and competitors. Again, this is not just about criminals attacking another criminals. It could be a company's attacking another company. It's literally like it's a dark world out there. It's crazy. There was this company in Russia that wanted to buy this US company. It was kind of a government contractor company that they wanted to buy. But this company in the US, they didn't want to sell to Russia. And I think they asked them for a lot of money. And what they did, they attacked them. And they were changing emails, keeping them and making those emails delayed. So these guys in the US, they lost a lot of contracts. Hence, their value came down because they were not getting these US, government contracts. And then the company in Russia who wanted to buy them, they did this because they want to buy them on a cheaper price. Boom, like mind blowing. Why would you do that? So, but that's the world they are playing in, guys. And this is why being in cybersecurity is like the best thing you can do right now. It's not going anywhere. We're just going to see more of it. Insider threat. Again, they cannot come in unless someone invited them or opened the doors for them. So you have malicious insider threat, right? Joe just decided to expose your company, right? A Disclento employees, right? All these are insider threat, and we should actually just be careful with that. But again, like I said, there's all different technology we can put in place to protect with this. Just keep in mind, insider threat can be anyone: your contractor, employees, your partners, business, so on and so forth. One thing that I will mention is this one, because this might appear on the exam: shadow IT. Who's here have heard about this one? Austin, okay. What do you think shadow IT is, Austin?
It's an infrastructure being ran without knowledge of the other infrastructure, the bigger one. So like dark web, for example.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a very fantastic example of it.
Thank you.
But guys, I will take it down a little bit for you. This is literally anyone at the company, insider, doing something without the IT department's knowledge. Similar to what Austin said, right? John decided to go to the dark web and bring this. Well, the IT doesn't know that. So shadow IT, they're basically doing what the IT would do without letting the IT know. A company I used to work for, we had people downloading software and start using the software without letting us know. So in a sense, they are shadowing us, right? They're doing what we would normally do. So the reason why this is listed here as one of the insider threat is because, I mean, it's not tested by IT. It can come with vulnerabilities, right? It can bring all kind. It can open the doors. It can be like a logic bomb. No, not really a logic bomb. It could be like oh God, I forgot that thing. Okay, we're gonna talk about that tomorrow anyway. But anyway, you got the idea. So shadow IT, something that we bring to the company but it's not approved by the IT team.
Like a back door, but I guess that's kind of like different.
So what did you say, like a back door?
But that's from different aspects. So I guess.
Yeah, no, not really that sophisticated. Not really that sophisticated. I mean, someone who can open up a back door, they probably know what they're doing. Shadow IT is more like a regular user. Literally, Bob and Joe, they install something without letting you know, without the IT people to know. So that is a threat because that can come with all kinds of issues. Because remember, in cyber, we have what we normally call a change management. If anyone is going to make change to the system, we have to know it. We have to follow the process. We got to test the software. We got to do all kinds of stuff. All right, here, attack surface and vectors. How do they get in? So attack surface is kind of a point where an attacker can discover or exploit vulnerabilities in a network of the applications. Like, again, this is how they get in. In vectors, it's the methods that they use to get in. Like 85%. This is statistics, guys. 85% it starts with the email. And now it's going with the phone calls, it's going with the text, right? We got like phishing, something we're going to talk about in more depth. It's a phone call. Email will be more like a phishing. Again, we're going to talk about all of these. Text will be like smishing. All right, I'm not going to come back to all these. But again, this is how they get in. Someone have to invite them. And one of the best way to get that invitation is by tricking someone to do something by sending them an email. But if we have a supply chain, third party, we got the cloud, all these are different kind of a surface, if you will, where the attacker can, get in if there's a vulnerability there. Any questions? Easy peasy, huh?
While you're talking about it, it's like, oh yeah, that makes perfectly sense. Then the minute you stop talking and you move on to the next thing, it's like, oh, I already forgot that already.
I don't blame you, John. Let's see what I got left here, because I know I'm running out of time. All right, I got 10 minutes. I can squeeze this in. Let's go. All right. Now let's dive into the threat intelligence, because now you know who we're up against. You know these APTs, advanced persistence threat, and all of them. Let's dive into the threat intelligence. So how do you know these guys? Before I do that, 1.5, it's exactly what we're talking about on that exam objective. So as you go back to your review, putting those check marks, that's where you're gonna do that at. Right. So how do we know these guys are bad or they are after us? Well, we have to do our intelligence. So we have to do threat research. We got to kind of know what they use, their techniques, if you will, that they use to attack organizations such as ours. So counterintelligence, it's all about catching the criminals as they take their first steps. You're like, what do you exactly mean? What I mean is this is where the detection comes in. We did our intelligence where we're able to know that if this IP address shows up, this is a bad IP address based on our intelligence. Another thing we use is tactics, techniques, and procedures. Now, I've mentioned this one already, but again, these are the techniques that they use to attack a different organization. This might sound hard, guys. It might sound hard, but there is a company that its core mission, it's all about helping us do this. And that company is called MITRE ATT&CK. Who's here have heard about MITRE? MITRE, any hands up? No, okay. Well, those who are gonna be working in the blue team, this is what we do day in and day out. All right, for the techniques, procedures, trying to understand who they are, what they're up to, this is what we use. Their techniques, how we can stop them, we use the MITRE ATT&CK. And if I can just get back to the resource, I'll put the link there for you. Here we are. So this is, again, I'm not asking you to memorize this. I'm just putting this right here. And if you have enough time, I'll just glance at this. It's not going to be in your exam, but you know what? You might see a question that pops up to ask you about MITRE ATT&CK. But anyway, in the real world, this is what we use. And this goes in and tells us everything, all the TTPs, the techniques, the procedures from start to finish. From reconnaissance, like what the enemy is going to do as far as searching, as far as learning about your organization. And after that, what they're going to do next until they can exfiltrate the data, like steal the information. Right? So these are the techniques. Once we know that maybe they're using, let's say that they're using for the initial access, let's say that they're using external remote services. Well, now that we know they're using that, we can learn a little bit more. We can see some examples of which APT, which enemies that uses that, right? And we can see what we need to do as far as mitigating this and what we can put in place to detect this in the first place. So again, there are resources out there that's gonna help you as you do your job. And as a part of threat research, we can also look at the academics. I don't know what you're gonna find there, but unfortunately, you can find some resources. But one that I just want to talk about is Honeypot and HoneyNet. I think it was LeGrand who mentioned these earlier, right? Again, these are decoys, right? We put a system in place that we know it's vulnerable, right? It's vulnerable. We have a fake data in there. Try to see if the attacker are going to come in. And then once they're in, we are learning about what they are doing. That's basically what we're doing. Okay, what kind of protocols are they scanning for? What kind of port are they asking, right? Once we know that intelligence, then we can literally go in and do some system hardening, harden our environment based on what we just learned from those honeypots and HoneyNet. And I'll tell you the difference. Honeypot is one computer that is acting as a decoy, and HoneyNet is just a bunch of those machines, a bunch of computers that are acting as decoys. Darknet and dark web. Who's here have heard about these two? You're like, no, we don't want to.
All over the web.
Yeah, dark web is very
Oh,
popular.
Gotcha. Right. I'm really not going to talk about much about this, but as a cybersecurity professional, you can find some really good kind of information from the dark web. And a lot of FBI's agents, they literally here, right? In other words, guys, if you're gonna catch a criminal, you have to think like a criminal. You got to go where they, you got to do what they would normally do. And since they are at the dark web, it might be a good idea as a company to research the dark web to see if there's any user data of our users that's being sold on the dark web, as an example. Threat intelligence providers. Another thing we can do, we can subscribe to some kind of a provider that provides us with the threat intelligence. We might pay for it, obviously. They might charge us some money, but they're giving us that intelligence. We're not manually going in and finding this intelligence. They're doing the hard work for us. And what they're gonna do, they're gonna give us the feeds, the data feeds of what they see. For example, Cisco have this. A lot of cybersecurity companies have this, and they provide you with the threat intelligence based on what they see from their different customers. So some of these feeds might be closed, they might be proprietary. We might get this from vendors' websites. Might be some public information. We might do what we normally call OSINT. I will talk about OSINT in more depth, but this is the open source intelligence. This is the publicly available information. But we might be looking at all of that. And actually one best place to go is this guy right here, the OSINT framework. I'll put this in the thing here. So right here, for example, I can just click on, let's say, DNS domain names. And right here, I can just tools maybe. And right here, I can look at, these are different tools that I can use to do some OSINT. Group suite. Let me just say positive DNS. And all these are different kind of tools, if you will, that I can use for that kind of stuff. DNS security. And I can literally just use DNS. You got the idea. So OSINT is publicly available information. It's free, it's online. And these are different tools that I can use to access those information. I'm gonna share this with you, play around with it. You can maybe, let's just, for example, let me grab who is. Let me grab that guy right there. All right, who is that right there? I used to have a website that is called the African hacker.com. I believe that was the name. Let me see if this will come up. Yeah, it did. Is it still active? It might not. All right. Yeah, it's definitely not active. All right. Let me find this other one. blueteamstrike.com. Is it .com or .co? It was .co. All right, it might be .com. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, it is. So this is who is. It's publicly available information. As soon as I just search for that, right, in who is, and you can also do this from a command line. They're telling me, hey, the domain name is registered with GoDaddy, but since that's not even enough, they give me when it's going to expire, the IP addresses of the name servers, the DNS. And not only that, check this out. It's saying, hey, who registered this? And guess what? That's my name. And where I live. Where I used to live. Right now I live in Georgia. And all of these are juicy information. If you're going to be attacking our organization, you can do OSINT, open source intelligence. And this is what I just did right here. Finding publicly available information that whenever someone is looking this up, I will never know someone is learning about me. I can never know that. GoDaddy is not gonna be like, hey, Francois, somebody just look you up, right? So again, that's OSINT. I will come back to OSINT in more depth. Not today, obviously. So, but other places you can find some source intelligence, including these right here. Again, not like social media, conferences, requests for comments or RFCs. These are very common. These are kind of like technical guides, if you will. For example, there's an RFC 1918, I think 1918. And this one is for like TCP as an example. So you can use that to find some intelligence, but barely. Let me finalize this, guys. Sorry, I'm going over a little bit. TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures. Again, we talked about this, right? We're going in and we're learning how the adversary behave, their techniques, their procedures. But ideally, what we're looking for is the IOC, the indicator of compromise. Right? Indicator of compromise, these are the data points, right? Anything that can give us an idea of what they use, their IP address, their domain names. Right now, we have a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning that can literally go in there and give us an idea of a bad IP address based on what other users and other things are kind of reporting online. So again, like I said before, all we have to do is just subscribe to a data feed, some kind of a threat intelligence provider, and they're going to give us this. But one thing we should know is that they have to anonymize any PII or PHI that is observed within the IOC. You got to remember that for your exam. If they're giving you the intelligence, they can't just give you the raw data, right? They got to hide any personal information or healthcare information that's part of that. Data feeds. Your question might be, okay, how do we get that data? Well, STIX, Structured Threat Information Exchange, and the TAC-C, Trusted Automated Exchange of Indicator of Information. These two are kind of the methods, if you will, of all these companies of the intelligence to get to you. So these are the methods that they utilize to get the intelligence to you. And part of this is the automated indicator sharing, or AIS. And AIS, guys, it's just a group of different companies that get together to share intelligence using these methods. For example, quickly here, the healthcare. There's kind of like not healthcare, let's say, aviation information sharing. There we go. For example, you have this aviation ASAC, right? This is like, you can subscribe if you are an aviation company, and they're just going to keep you up to date with any adversaries, anything that they see as a threat within the aviation space. So that's what they're doing, and it's working. Another thing we can do, or we can subscribe to, is some kind of a threat map. And I'm just going to share this with you here. But threat map gives us an idea of who is attacking who live, which is kind of interesting, like similar to what you see here. So take some time to look over this. All right. And you can go to GitHub on code repository and stuff like that. Again, this is a data feeds, right? Things that give you an idea, like this is a threat. Last but not least, artificial intelligence. Again, we got machine learning, artificial intelligence. They're going in, they're looking at these data, they're helping us making decisions. Now, a lot of the tools like CIEM, SIEM, we're gonna talk about that. SOAR, COAR. We're going to talk about this one as well. They all have AI and ML capabilities that is helping us, right, with learning about these threats and kind of knowing them faster. All right, guys, any questions? The last stuff is not going to be on the exam. This stuff is not going to be on the exam. So let's breeze through it. All right, and that takes me to the quiz. So you're like, really? Oh, I thought it was time to go. Yeah, so let's finish this quiz, then I'll let you guys go, all right? All right, who want to read? Let's do it.
A major political party experienced a server breach. Hacker then publicly posted stolen internal communications concerning campaign strategies to give the opposition party an advantage, which is the following best describes these threat actors.
What do you guys think?
State actor.
That's
Wait.
a state, yeah.
You said APT or state actors, you said?
State
Yes.
actors.
State, yeah.
State because it's political.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys nailed it. I like that. Like political, you gotta be state. All right, next.
A company's chief information security officer, CISO, recently warned the security manager that the company's chief executive officer, CEO, is planning to publish a controversial opinion article in a national newspaper, which may result in a new cyber attack. Which of the following would be best for the security manager to use in a threat model? Wow, that was a big one. I don't think it.
White hat hackers.
White hat hackers. Why is that, Austin?
Yeah.
Well, best for threat model. It's simulating the attack, not an attack's happening. Hacktivists, script kiddies, and insider threats are all attacks happening.
Best for
Yeah.
security and a threat model. Oh, good point.
catch.
That's
Okay,
just,
yeah.
I don't know. That's what
Okay. All right, good point. Good point.
I think
Not
that's-
script kiddies, and it's not a hacktivist. No.
that's not
Like
inside.
I'm leaning towards insider threat because it's the company's CEO and it's an inside thing. So if you're going to make a threat model, you'd use an inside threat in your model to prevent against, I guess.
Or security.
No, because he's planning to publish a controversial, and he is obviously already an internal.
You guys are really kind of looking at the keywords, so I like that. So what we have, white hat hackers and insider threat, right?
Correct. Those are the two.
Anybody have any other opinion?
I. You're all wrong.
Right. You're all wrong. All right. So here is how you look at this question, right? Security manager. No. Here, this is where the keywords. Planning to publish controversial opinions article, right? Whatever that thing is. Again, this is going to kind of trigger certain people with the different opinions, right? Now, you guys really kind of got this little here confused here with the threat model. Threat model is that it's when we're preparing, right? We're trying to determine, okay, who is out there, right? We're trying to model who is out there that might possibly do something if we go ahead and publish this.
Okay.
And there was a lot of nonsense, this person is telling this person. So when you're reading questions like this, just keep that stuff, right? I mean, read it, but don't pay much attention to it. Pay much attention to the keywords. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next.
Commercial cyber threat intelligence organization observes IOCs across a variety of unrelated customers prior to releasing specific threat intelligence to other paid subscribers. The organization is most likely obligated by contracts to
Just anonymize it.
Yep. Yep. That's what yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that one.
So B2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second one.
All right.
People's information, personal identifiable information.
Yeah, good job. All right, next.
An organization just experienced a major cyber attack incident. The attack was well coordinated, sophisticated, and highly skilled. Which of the following targeted the organization?
Advanced
APT.
advanced persistent threat.
Ain't gonna give it. Ain't gonna get us again.
Yeah, you got that one. All right, guys, this is a fun class. So that's it for me tonight. Is there any questions before I close here?
Oh, how do I get the Discord?
Yeah, I need that as well.